Hey everyone, Token Dave over here. The dorky talking black guy who's just trying to get by. In my last movie review, I ended off by stating how great it feels honoring your commitments. And now I didn't do that last month. I gave you guys a reason, but still, I should have honored that commitment that I made. Well, I'm rectifying that right now by, continuing the MCU franchise review, Phase 1 and Phase 2, by talking about the third movie in this franchise review, The Incredible Hulk. Now, for those that are saying, oh wait, Token Dave, Incredible Hulk is actually the second movie, please visit the link down below so you could see how I am setting up my MCU franchise review. Alright? Because I gave you guys a great explanation. Anyway, with that out the way, let's go into Incredible Hulk, alright? So, Dr. Bruce Banner is actually experimenting on gamma radiation, right? And he actually is so confident in his calculations that he experiments on himself, unaware that basically the funding from the military that's allowing him to conduct these experiments is actually being used to basically jumpstart something known as the Super Soldier Project. Well, the experiment goes awry and it transforms Bruce Banner into the giant green Sasquatch known as the Hulk. And basically, realizing what basically the military originally intended his experiment for, Banner has been on the worldwide run. And basically, when the military catches up to him, and with the gamma radiation in his body, rumored to be killing him, he has no choice but to go back to the United States to try to cure himself from his gamma radiation poisoning and hopefully rid himself of the Hulk. Okay, guys, so basically, like I stated earlier, this is the third review of the MCU franchise review. Now, the reason why I say this is because this is actually continuing off of the Hulk movie that came out in 2003. And, well, I like that movie. I really like that movie. And a lot of people really that comment could really turn people off and everything. To which I invite you all to actually watch my review of Ang Lee's Hulk, and as well as the reasoning why I like it, But, one criticism a lot of people had about it is that the movie was too boring. Well, this movie, it rectified that. But within rectifying the boring aspects, really take away what was built from the original movie. Let me explain. Without going into too much detail, basically, the original movie, was the 2003 movie, was very much like reading the Hulk comics, because the Hulk comics, especially earlier on, were pretty damn boring, and, they focused more on the scientific hypotheses, which is what the first movie did, This movie, they don't focus on it too much. And you can actually tell that this is a continuation, because where the first movie left off is where this movie picks up. Actually, people are saying that this is another example of a requel, which is a remake or a reboot sequel, which in this case, it's more of a reboot sequel, because we start off in South America, specifically Brazil, where Banner is hiding out. And that's one of the problems that I have with this movie. This movie, it sacrifices the awesome character development and substance that was made in the Ang Lee movie, and really dumbs down the characters way too much. In the Ang Lee movie, basically Banner was a lot more sympathetic in this, where here you don't have that sympathy with him. And basically, you got the complexity of the relationship he had with Betsy Ross. And here, Betsy Ross is way too much like the damsel in distress here. Yeah, she kind of was to a degree in the comic books, but they went with that overdrive in this movie. And General Thunderbolt Ross is actually, very much like the comic, but by the same token, the portrayal that Sam Elliott did in the Hulk movie made him more dynamic, more three-dimensional, a lot more charming, a lot more cunning, and more manipulating. Whereas here, he is just a two-dimensional, stern, gruff guy that is self-centered, which, kind of does away with the characters. Now, I'll admit, I'm not a fan of the recasting. The only, of Edward Norton as Bruce Banner and Liz Tyler as Betsy Ross. I will say that William Hurt as General Thunderbolt Ross is the one recast that I did enjoy. Did I enjoy it more than Sam Elliott's performance? No. But it was still a good addition. Speaking about good additions, we got Timothy Ross as, Emil, Brodsky, the Abomination. Now, I understand the changes they made to this character here, because basically, they actually had him as someone that was born in Russia but raised in England. I understand why they did that, because at the time, it was a little hard to understand why the United States would actually, use the help of a KGB operative, which is what Brodsky is in the comics. Basically in the comics, he is a KGB spy who bombarded himself with more radiation than Banner did, and that's why he's more of an abomination, also his personality, which they actually got right. They got that, with his personality, in this movie, with him being overly aggressive all the time, it makes him an abomination, it makes him evil, and quite frankly, this is actually a much better opponent for the Hulk than basically David Banner in the previous movie. This is what I'll give this movie. I'll give this movie that the action is improved and we have a better antagonist and opponent for the Hulk in this movie. I'll give it that. I'll also give that basically, Samuel Stearns in this movie, it is actually really cool. I this Samuel Stearns in this is my favorite character in the whole movie, and the character has such great potential, especially as they leave him off with a cliffhanger itself, but it is still to be determined if basically they'll bring back Dr. Stearns in this movie, whom, if you're a fan of the comics, you'll know what character Stearns is supposed to be. If you're not a fan, ask me on social media. Anyway, so what else is good about this movie other than the action? Because the action is pretty cool. To be honest, that's the best part about this movie. And, which really, really kind of bothers me, because basically, while the action's an improvement, I am not too much invested in the characters as much. I will say that basically there are some, nice little Easter eggs from the Hulk mythos that are in this movie. For example, there's a scene in this movie where they actually basically, present Banner with purple stretchy pants. Nice one. I see what y'all did right there. They also dropped an Easter egg of his known aliases Betsy Ross and Rick Jones in the title screen of the movie. But here's the weird part. Later on in the movie, we have a brief cameo of Bruce looking at a guy that across at a computer screen holding up a thing of pizza, whom that very actor appears later in Phase 3 of the MCU, which I'll talk about sometime in another year or two. But, they're saying that character was Amadeus Cho, but I think it would have been more appropriate if that character was Rick Jones. For one, the character actually looks more like Rick Jones in the comics than this actor that's portraying him. And B, Amadeus Cho is Asian. This dude does not look Asian at all, but neither here or there, you know. Oh, and by the way, I find it very interesting that basically Banner's in South America learning Aikido. Now, granted, like, you know, one of the Gracie family members is in this movie as his instructor, you know, and maybe it's really jujitsu he's learning because basically, you know, Aikido is like, you know, an offshoot of jujitsu, but that movement that they practice and everything, that's more of an Aikido move. And one thing that I also gotta say that I like is like you see more empathy for of normal people in their everyday lives in the South America in Brazil and South America as opposed to over here. But I'm just rambling on right now. What else could I say? Like, you know, a bit of a dumb down of the characters in itself, you know, the plot not as interesting or intriguing as, you know, as an earlier movie, but with the action that's basically the show stealer of the whole movie. All I can say is basically the Incredible Hulk is still cool, you know. I still prefer the Ang Lee version way better with how it balanced basically, you know, it developed the characters more, it felt more like the comic books. But I have to say that the action made up for everything that was lost in that movie, you know. If you want to know, so yeah, I enjoy Hulk more than the Incredible Hulk. Agree, disagree, and I know a lot of you will disagree. Please drop me a comment in the comment section below. Give me a like. Follow me on Facebook at Token Dave or on Twitter at Token Dave 80. Subscribe. Ring that bell so you know when a new video loads, and spread this video out. But until then, this has been Token Dave, the dorky token black guy who's just trying to get by, and I'll catch all of you later.